Welcome to Built for This. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe. My podcast features captivating conversations with intriguing people who have found purpose in their lives through their career, family, or life experiences, and just why they were built for this. Through the stories that you will hear, I trust that you will be inspired and encouraged to find just what you were built for. So let's get started. And welcome to this week's edition of Built for This. I'm very happy to have in the studio today and on the show an entrepreneur, real estate mogul, former mayor, a civic servant in the community, and a person who has a great story of self-discovery and a journey. Chris Watts. Chris, thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for the invitation.
Sure. We have so much to talk about. You've got a book that you're working on. You were a former mayor, served on a city council. Mm-hmm. You have passion in that civic-minded service in the community. But you have such an interesting story of your life in general, of a person who has, if anyone is built for what you're doing, then it's you. But let's go back to start with, I guess, about this has not been an easy journey of self-discovery and success and failures, but your early childhood, was that the point that what you went through that launched you to the mindset that I'm going to make something of myself?
Brian, that's a great question. I think looking back, what I realized was a lot of the early days was just simply spent surviving, trying to make day-to-day decisions that hopefully would make things better. I grew up in a home that was very economically challenged, single-parent home. My mom raised 4 boys. I say single-parent. She was married several times, so it's sort of a revolving door of men at the young age of, when you're up through high school. So I think it was more during those early days, and she struggled with alcoholism and never was in recovery. And so that certainly presented a series of challenges for her own life and her own wound that she really was never able to recover from. And then that affected, clearly, the family life and things such as that. So I think it was more you just make decisions to try to survive and make things better. But then as I got older, out of high school and college, and she passed away when I was 23. So she passed when I was pretty young. So after that, we were pretty much on our own. So it was just about making decisions to not be in the same situation that I was growing up. I mean, I'd like to say that I had some great strategic plan, that there was some goal and some highway of decision-making that I laid out, but it really wasn't that. It was just more a set of linear decisions. And with each one of those decisions and areas of life, there was more self-awareness. There was more understanding of, what holds me back? How did I get here? And what is it going to take to move forward? And that's sort of how it turned out. Now, at one point, when I was older in my 30s and going to law school, then it became more of a strategic kind of plan. I mean, consciously, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally. And that's sort of how I've gotten to where I am today, because there's just so many stories in between about pivotal moments. But that early childhood was a challenge, economically, emotionally. But I think it was in that adversity. Everybody has to make a decision at some point. Do you let those things continue to weigh on you and hold you back? Or do you make a decision to say, okay, this is what happened. This is how it affected me. How do I change it in order to move in a different direction into a different place?
I know later in your life, certainly in your professional career, you kind of live by the mantra, trust the process.
Right.
How hard was that, though, early on in life, trusting the process of family life? Father, obviously, that wasn't too much in the picture, and you were relying on your mother, who also had her own challenges. But trusting that childhood growing up process, I mean, just the idea of trust must have been difficult.
It was, but I will say that early on, my family, at least in the early years as a toddler and as a young boy, we attended church regularly. And so I think really those early days and those early years, trusting the process was also sort of synonymous with trusting my faith. Mm-hmm. In other words, moving forward, not knowing exactly what's going to happen, but that there's something else working that is much larger than myself, that can continue to move not only me forward, but our family forward, and to keep us from really falling off the cliff. So I relied pretty heavily on that, and still do. It takes different forms, and everybody evolves, and you grow, so that was a major part of that ability to look beyond what is, and to look beyond only just the physicalness of my experience, but also that there's something that's much bigger, much broader, much more powerful than what the current circumstances sort of dictated.
I know that you have quite a heart for a number and passions for a number of issues that our society faces. Homelessness is one of those, and you've displayed that in your civic service. But you experienced it personally, up close and very real as a young boy. I don't want to really ask what was that like, but what kind of scars or what kind of takeaways or inspiration, if there could be, that you took from that as a young boy that you now have as a man?
Well, again, when you're in that, especially I think we were probably 12 or 13, the circumstances that created that, we stayed, there was a time we stayed at Lake Louisville, in a station wagon with my two other brothers, a couple of dogs, and as much as we could put in the car. What precipitated that was my mom had gotten married to someone that was less than stellar, and he struggled with the same addiction that she did, and he was violent. And so one night, we all three slept in the same bedroom. It's a little small 2-bedroom house. 3 boys slept in the same room. And it's funny because I sleep with a fan on at night. Mm-hmm. And I've always wondered, what's that about? And I remember that at that particular stage in my life, my bed was right under the window unit air conditioner. And so that white noise drowned out a lot of things, a lot of potential conflicts, a lot of potential noises outside, just gave some stability of sound in order to be able to sleep. Well, one night it didn't work, and we woke up to hear our mom screaming in the next room. And as we all three walk out the door, the bedroom door into the living room, about the time he threw a full beer can and hit her squarely in the face. I mean, and you could see the eye begin to swell immediately. And I don't remember this. My brother said that we all three jumped on him. And we're talking, we were 9, maybe 11 and 12 or 13. Yeah. And that he sort of slung us off, and it just was a crazy, crazy situation. But he fell asleep because he didn't fall asleep. He just passed out because he was inebriated. And he went off to work. Mom got us all up. She took the day off. We packed up everything, got in the station wagon, and left. And when I think back on that, what I really appreciate is my mom's strength, even though she was struggling with her own wound. Yeah. What she was able to do, though, is say, hey, this isn't good for me. It's certainly not good for my kids. And we left. And so we stayed at the lake because we didn't really – this was back in the – I guess it was in the 70s, early 70s. So it was back then the social network, the social safety net wasn't as prominent as it is now. Primarily the places of faith, the churches, were the ones who provided that kind of support. So we stayed there about 3 or 4 days, and eventually the church was able to find us a place that we could stay temporarily, and then we were able to get housed in a trailer, mobile home, manufactured home. I'm not sure what they call them these days. Yeah. So that's really what precipitated that. But it was funny because after my first mayoral election, that was not a campaign issue. But after I got elected, I thought, we had this issue in Denton. Let's convene a task force of all the nonprofits that are working in this space to find ways that we can be more efficient with the same resources and try to help more people in a better way. And you just get the experts in the room. I walk out. You all find a way to do it and just bring us back some recommendations. So I certainly have a heart for people who struggle. I mean, you hear the old phrase, money won't make you happy. But the lack of it can make it very challenging. Exactly. So it's a really crazy kind of dynamic. But we were able to find some housing and at least get some stability. So that's what brought some of that to mind was just – now, I'll be honest. I have to say, when you're a 12-year-old kid sleeping in a station wagon at the lake, you don't really have a clear understanding of what's happening. Yeah. But as an adult looking back, first of all, I think about my mom and the courage she must have had, but also just what was going on in her heart to know that she was in this situation with her 3 children. And it really made me respect her more. It made me realize that she was a great woman of strength, even though she really struggled with her own internal wounds. But she was able to find a way to make the right decisions when she needed to.
And 50 years later after that, that experience has molded you and helped you to be in a position where you are right now, to have the same kind of compassion when you see homelessness because you experienced it like that.
Yes, and we faced housing insecurity pretty much most of my junior high and high school life. You know, we struggled with paying rent and even the mortgage payment when she had a little house. And so that's what I do. I mean, I have a small real estate portfolio, and I lease out apartment and houses. And so part of that for me is a way to give back, to say, hey, yeah, I've got to be able to make, an income on it. But I also know that, hey, if I can provide someone a nice place to live at a price that they can afford and provide them the type of customer service that gets things fixed when they're broken, and just also can provide some flexibility if they need a little bit, when sometimes they don't get paid in the week that falls on the first, I'm happy to do it because I understand, and I watched my mom as she struggled sometimes to make sure that those bills got paid.
What about the years after your mom passes away? So you're in your early 20s.
Right.
What inspired you, or what kick-started your desire then? But I know also that you went through a period of time of that was difficult to get over, your mom passing. Sure. And maybe some depression and some difficult times. But what kicked in at that point that Chris Watts said, you know what, it's time to pull up the bootstraps, and I'm going to go I'm going to get in real estate. I'm going to go get a law degree, and I'm going to do something.
It's quite a fascinating story. I mean, when my mom passed, basically we were orphaned in a sense. I mean, our extended family, because of some other things that happened early in childhood regarding law enforcement and things like that. But it was interesting in the sense that when she died, it was devastating. I mean, for a few years I was pretty lost. But yet what was fascinating is I was making decisions externally that were good decisions. I went to college, paid my way through college. And I remember that one of my finance teachers at the University of North Texas, this was back when inflation was skyrocketing and mortgage interest rates were tremendously high. He said to the class, he said, look, if you're going to get somewhere where you're going to be for a while, buy a house. Just buy a house. Literally, that's all I remember him saying. And when she passed, we did live in a little small home that she owned. It's about a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,000 square feet. At one point, we had 10 people in it. Wow. And I decided to go ahead and buy the house from the brothers. So I gave them their equity. I used my equity to buy the house, and that was the first home or the first piece of real estate I ever bought. And I realized after about a few years, I thought, oh, this is a good avenue. And so I started buying other pieces of real estate, got a job as a computer programmer, lasted 5 years, hated it, and decided, well, I'll sell real estate. I didn't know what else to do because I just didn't. Thought I'd made the worst decision of my life. I went from $40,000 a year to $16,000, and that doesn't sound like a whole lot. But back in the '80s, that wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. But just kept working at it and trying to create some new business opportunities. And then at the time, in the late '80s, the savings and loans all went under, and the government had a bunch of property. I started buying some and realized, hey, this is what I want to do, because I didn't want – the reason I quit my computer job is I thought I'm working real hard to make somebody else money. If I'm going to work hard, I want it to be able to maximize, my opportunity for income. And when I was a broker, that's not to say there's a lot of brokers out there that do very, very well. But I didn't want somebody being in control of my income. If you wake up and you decide I don't want to buy this deal, your commission's gone. So I just started investing full time. And by the time I was about my mid-30s, my investments were able to pay my bills. And it was probably about my late 20s or 30s when things really began to turn around. I have to say, in all fairness, that, back in my early 20s, I realized I had to get some help. And so, I had a friend of mine recommend a therapist. and was entered into that process, and it was very valuable. I went to get a master's degree in counseling education, so I went through that educational program, which was very valuable just for me personally. So my 20s were really the time when I laid the foundation to really begin to build upon that growth and to go, okay, I'm not going to be the way we were. I'm going to need to do something different, and I'm going to have to be something different internally in the sense of those old messages that were not true. You have to unlearn them, and you have to put something else in their place. So that's sort of how all that started.
Was there a moment or a time that you thought, I think I need to, or I want to give back to the community in a way of serving, civic service, city council, mayor?
Sure.
What I guess sparked your at that time that you feel like, I know this is on down the road a little bit, that but you felt like that you'd like to share your experiences and your insights with the community?
That happened about the time, because I know when I went to law school when I was 37.
Okay.
And I remember sitting with my friend and saying, hey, I think I'm going to law school. And this always shocks people when I tell them this. I only went to law school literally because I didn't think I was smart enough to get through law school. That was one of those old messages growing up, that you're just not smart enough to do what you want to do. And I decided, okay, where we're going to go.
Okay.
And this is a funny story. It's a funny story. But I remember sitting in orientation the first day, all your fellow students that you're going to be going to school with for 2 or 3 years, 3 years, is in the room. And most of them are younger than me. I was a little bit older student. Professor comes in, and she says, gives us a little talk. And then she says, hey, who knows what burglary is? Well, so here's a guy sitting in a room that thinks everybody might be smarter than him, and I'm the only one that raises his hand.
All right.
And so I raised my hand. I have no idea the answer I gave. I cannot remember. I remember distinctly what she said. She said, now, class, this is why you want to get a legal dictionary. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, at least you sound like you know what you're talking about. And I mean, it was like she just took the spear and hit me center mass. And I thought, I'm going to respond to this. Nobody talks to me that way and embarrasses me. And I didn't say a word. And what I realized was this woman gave me a great gift. I never went to class unprepared. I always prepared for the things that were important because they were important. And so I would say it was during law school and afterwards where I realized, I want to get a little bit more involved. And one time the city council had some issue that created a lot of stir in the community. I was in a gymnasium with probably 200 or 300 people all yelling at city staff. And I remember walking out of there thinking, I can fix this. I can do this. And so I ran for District 4 City Council. And sure enough, I got on, got assigned as chair of a subcommittee, and we fixed the problem. It took 2 years. So it really is about how can I give back to help people in the city, first of all, have opportunity, but also to get out of their way, to just let people do what they need to do to better their lives, and how can we be a part of that? So it's been very rewarding and gratifying to do that. And as an aside, at one point, as a bargain with God to try to get my mom to quit drinking, I was going to be a preacher.
Okay.
So I went to seminary for 1 semester and decided, that's probably not the route I want to go in helping people that way. And what I came to realize was that in some ways, my ability to help people with their housing can be a form of that, helping people, ministry, so to speak. And then in the city, really providing people with an opportunity to better their lives. What more could you ask to do? So law school and just personal growth and really being confident and knowing that, hey, I can do these things, and really just created a whole different, it literally changed my world. Literally.
You're running. Everybody knows you're running for mayor again,
right,
in Denton, 2026.
Mm-hmm.
Do the issues that face a community, are they pretty much the same every electoral cycle that we see? Homelessness, housing, affordability of things. Is that what you, in your experience, is that what you see? And how do you, from what you've experienced in your life, how do you see that you could step in and make that impact for change for better?
I think basically with all cities, there are some very similar issues. I mean, my city manager that I used to work with, he went out to California. One time I watched one of his city council meetings. I think I was one of 11 watching it at the time. And they were talking, and I thought, it's all the same stuff. It's all the same issues, all the same words: affordability, zoning, quality of life, parks, streets. And so those are some core issues. But I will say, from the first time I ran in 2014 to now, you do have issues that are a little bit more challenging. Homelessness, the unsheltered, economic development. How can we continue to provide an opportunity for people to achieve upward economic mobility? People want to improve their lives. I mean, when you have a housing affordability issue, people think it's about reducing the price of the housing. That's one. But also, if you help people make a better living, then they can do better with their housing choices. So there's a lot of commonality, but the scale and challenges can vary. I will tell you, just to be right now, it's not so much the issues, it's how do people process through the issues.
Yeah,
Are they working together? Is it all political? Is it all divisive? That's the biggest challenge that Denton faces right now, is how can we work together to maximize the benefits that we want to achieve for the population.
Looking back again, let's go back down memory lane, and I'm going to talk about the book that you're working on that's going to come out. Talk about so many. I know in it that you write that it's a journey of self-discovery, of love, of losses, of victories, and which is life.
Sure.
When you look back at that time and now to where you are serving in civic-minded positions and all the kinds of things right now, what do you tell people if you get the opportunity to speak to maybe young real estate entrepreneurs or just someone to encourage them or coach them, if you will, in their life from the journey that you've had? What do you tell them about the obstacles and the successes that they're going to have?
Sure. Well, that's a great question. And that's something that I've had to really think through as I've been trying to write the book. And I think, though, what I would tell people is the same thing that I told them when I gave the commencement address speech at Texas Women's University in 2015, I believe. 15. First of all, I would say the key, you have to find how you continue your own personal self-development. Some people, it's seeing a counselor. Some people, it's reading books. Some people, it's going to the mountain. Whatever works for a person, that's what they need to commit themselves to, is how can I continue to know myself, what makes me tick, what makes me feel good, what makes me feel not so good. Because personally, I don't believe you can really get to know any other person to any deeper level than what you know yourself.
Right.
And so that's what I'd say is, like, your external decisions, do what you need to do. But as long as you understand what's driving you, and do you want to continue to have that drive you, or do you want to embark on a different direction?
The book. What made you want to write a book, first of all, to start with?
I've always sort of wanted to write some stories because I love story. I think story is the elixir to life. I mean, everybody has a story.
Sure.
We all have a story.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to put down some of my stories, but honestly, I've had some challenging health issues in the last 4 or 5 years that, we all have an expiration date, so to speak, but sometimes you become more aware of it, or acutely aware of it may be approaching than what you might already know. And so I think that really was the motivation to say, hey, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I want to make sure that I write down my stories. But really, it's the stories of the people in my life that I determine as threads of grace that somehow throughout a lot of these stories, you just see something moving through them. You see the people that come in and out and what they contribute to your life. And it comes out of nowhere. There's no reason that those things are happening. And I'll give you one example. When I had this huge fight with my mom when I was about 18 or 19, trying to get her to quit drinking. It's people who have had those experiences understand what I'm saying about just the guilt, the shame, the desire to have people change because you see how it really wrecks their life. Had a huge fight, felt terrible, left the house, was going to go talk to, at that time, my pastor because, and at that time there were no cell phones, you just go. He wasn't there. The youth minister wasn't there. And I thought, oh boy, I'm in big trouble here. And as I'm walking out, there's a gentleman, a college-age kid such as myself, who his name was Felix, and he was of Pakistani descent. And he was cleaning up the church. He was a janitor for the church in between disasters. He worked for the Red Cross. I thought, you just thought you were in between disasters. You're fixing to meet one front and center. Yeah. And he just came up and said, how you doing? And I thought, I can either lie to him or I can tell him the truth. And I told him the truth. And all the time my head was bowed because I was too ashamed to talk about how my behavior, my actions, and how bad I felt about what I did, understanding that was my wound. That was the wound in me. And I remember I looked up and he had tears in his eyes. I don't even know what he said, if he said anything. I'm sure he did. And at that moment, I thought, God is standing before me right now.
Right. Yeah.
These are God's tears because finally I was heard. I'm not judged. Nobody's telling me I need to pray hard enough or I need to have more faith or any of those kind of things. Somebody just sees someone who's in a lot of pain and has put a lot of guilt on themselves to fix something that, quite frankly, I couldn't fix. And from that day forward, I decided, first of all, never talk to my mom like that again, ever. And I decided I have to move out because I can't do this. I was 18 or 19, didn't know how I was going to afford it until a young man in my Bible study class said, you want to be my roommate? I said, sure. Yeah, the rent's $80 a month total.
Wow.
From a lady in the church who rented it out to students as her ministry. And so it's things like that I have no control over. And when you say trust the process, that's the process I'm talking about. That sometimes your best intentions, your best strategies, life is what happens when you make the plans because half the time it's not the plans. So that's really the purpose of the book, is to talk about those stories and those people. And first of all, to honor them for just them being them, and to let people know that, hey, it doesn't matter. You can come from an alcoholic home with barely making it financially. You're working at 14 years old at Sonic Drive-In for 10 years, and you think you're not very good. You're not very smart. But if you keep moving and if you keep searching and you keep going inside to understand, you never know where you're going to wind up. And if you'd have told me back when I was in that station wagon at Lake Louisville that, oh, you're going to be mayor of Denton someday, I said, you're out of your mind, you know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter where you want. It's like in the book. I talk about, people have great stories of financial success, athletic success, musical success, all these celebrities, and that's great. But yet there's so many ordinary people, quote unquote, that have extraordinary stories that truly impact the world in ways that nobody can even imagine. So that's the point of the book.
You mentioned in just a couple of words, a couple of things that you said just then about your self-identity and your just what you thought of yourself growing up and overcoming some of that. Yeah, I think you used a word in the book. I think it was less than-ness.
Yes,
and
that's true.
So, which I thought was a great word. And how did you overcome that? I mean, we've talked about it already, many examples of how you overcame less than-ness. But I think that's a great a great encouragement to the viewers and listeners of this, that how if they feel that way growing up or in any particular way, you overcame that.
I did. It wasn't something.
Overcoming it.
It wasn't something so conscious, but what it was a sense of I didn't want to stay this way.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, unfortunately, children who grow up in some of these very difficult, challenging families, some of them, it's hard to break out of that system, and it takes a lot of commitment and a lot of courage and a willingness to change. So the less thanness, I think in the book too, I write that when I went from the landscape of less thanness to just the landscape of equality, the whole world changed. Not better than anybody, but I'm also not less than anybody. When you grow up thinking that, think of how that impacts your decision making, to think that you can't. In fact, one of the stories I told at the commencement was before the commencement, I was visiting an elementary school, just as mayor, talking to the kids and talking to mentors. And this one young boy, he's probably about the third grade. We were talking, I don't even know why I asked him this question. I said, well, do you think you know where you want to go to school? Who knows where they want to go to school?
Right.
But his response was it was heartbreaking. He said, I'm not going to go to college because I'm not smart enough to go to college.
Oh, wow.
That's in the third grade. Somebody already believes that about themselves. It broke my heart. Thank goodness there was a mentor there that was working with this boy, just as their mentor, like a big brother or something. And that's how people overcome that. In the commencement address, I said, look, somebody had to believe in me before I believed in myself. And people did. And that helped me change until I began to really go, oh, I can do this. And now for me, it's like, just pass it on. Go believe in someone. Take someone that doesn't seem like they believe in themselves and give them that opportunity to do that, because it changes worlds, quite honestly.
You talk about your faith a lot, and that was a turning point or a pivotal point for you too, I guess, in your 20s or close to 30 when that made a big impact on you. And how did that maybe redirect what your focus was going to be? Like, wow, this is now a big part of my life, and I'm going to take this whole different journey from this point forward. The story of your mom and a difficult childhood is now in the past.
Sure. How did that
redirect your steps?
My faith journey has been one of it's been interesting. Yeah. Raised in a fairly fundamental doctrinal kind of structure, and realizing that, okay, for me, that wasn't as helpful as I would have liked it to have been. Mm-hmm. And I think it's as I went through some of the diversity and some of the dark nights of the soul, I don't know how else to explain them. Yeah. Just dark nights of the soul, when you really have to come face to face with things that you never wanted to look at, questions you've always had. So I think my faith has certainly grown stronger. I think if people looked at it from the outside, they'd say, oh, well, you're not doing the things necessarily that people use to judge. Here's the checklist. Yeah. But there's no way I could have done what I've done and grown like I've grown without having some sense of there is something that is much bigger, much more powerful, much more loving than anything I can ever even attempt. And you just have to trust that. So yeah, it's had its moments, both very encouraging and moments that were not so encouraging, but I think that's life.
Yeah. All right, going forward now, and I'm circling back to trust the process. Mm-hmm. So now you've served several positions, and now you've got aspirations for another one. Are you happy with how the process, whatever that might mean, mm-hmm. and how you trust that we, we can, as a community, come together and get things addressed, like we've talked about homelessness and being a caring community? Is the process working, trustworthy?
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, I can say I trust the process, but that doesn't mean that everybody necessarily trusts the process. So I do trust that wherever I need to be, whatever I need to be doing, from whatever reason I'm doing it from, I trust that. And that's what gives me encouragement to go, okay, we need to move forward. And I had one friend tell me, you always say that, but what if things don't work out? I go, well, got to say it. I mean, they may not work out the way you think they should right now, but I still have to trust that, okay, I've had health issues that I had to trust the process. I had to say, I don't know if when I had COVID in the hospital, I really thought I was going to die. I mean, no question. I thought, okay, this is it. I'm going to die in here alone because my body wasn't responding. And, I had to have that conversation with God. I had to look over my life and decide, how do I feel about this? Yeah. And I came out at the end, it's like, okay, I wouldn't want to die, but I was satisfied. And so that to me is you just trust, you have to trust where you're going, and sometimes you can't see, and that's when you have to trust that you're heading in the right direction.
Well, obviously the show is called Built for This. Mm-hmm. You are built for what you're doing right now. A couple of things that stick out in your mind as to what are the foundational blocks that put you in this place to do what you are doing for the community or for yourself in general. And maybe it goes all the way back to your childhood. Perhaps. Sure.
Well, I think it's a commitment to growth and self-development. Yeah. I think you have to be nakedly honest with yourself about certain things in your life and to admit mistakes, take accountability, be responsible, because ultimately we are responsible. I have a friend of mine, dear friend, that probably was one of the most impactful people in my life, an older gentleman. And I remember I said to him, and I've said to people about him, this person really helped me change my life, truly. And I thought to myself, if I have one person in the world who can say, hey, talking to one of their friends, there's this guy I knew. His name was Chris Watts. And I have to tell you that what he gave to me, the friendship we had or the brief interaction we had, whatever, really made an impact. If I have one person that can say that, I've done my job.
Sure.
And if everybody has a person like that they can say that about, then we'd be probably in a very different place. So I think the building block is, self-discovery, self-love, gratitude, understanding that probably didn't get here solely on my own. And just a commitment to try to make the world a better place than where you found it.
How difficult? Well, that's not a really good question, but using those building blocks and foundational support strengths in your life. You mentioned your health issues. You went through COVID. You've had some chemo and cancer-related things.
Yes.
If those things had come along 20 years earlier, 25 years earlier, how differently would you have handled them or reacted to that than you did this time?
That's a great question. I don't think I would have handled it with as much. I think I would have been more fearful. I think I would have had more fear surrounding it. Fear of the unknown, fear of the worst case happening. Because when growing up in the environment I did, my belief was I'm going to lose before I even open my mouth.
Fear was a big deal.
Yes, very fear-based. Absolutely. I mean, and it's terrible. So it would be probably more fear-based. And whereas now, it's not. It's you walk through it, you do what you can, and you learn that you got to trust the process. You got to trust. It would have been very different.
Let's talk a little bit about the book before we're out of time. And it's for those who are interested, it's in the works. It's in the process.
Right.
in editing mode right now. What's that journey been like for you as far as self-discovering, finding out about yourself when you've gone back through your life to now put it down on paper?
That's a great question. It has been a remarkable kind of journey because it's one thing to have gone through them 40 years ago, 45, 50 years ago. It's another to start writing about them. And then you begin to not relive them, but you see them from a different angle.
Yeah.
Because now I'm an adult, I've had life experience, and it's given me a greater appreciation of, quite frankly, my mom's strength at the time, given her own struggles. And it's been quite a walk down memory lane. And it's really given me a greater appreciation for just the journey and the people that have been part of that journey that really made a difference.
What do you want people to take away from the book when they read that? What kind of, is it encouraging, inspiring, all of the above?
It is. I hope that what they take from it is that you just have to keep moving. You've got to really look inside, and that sometimes having grand plans, okay, we all want to have that, but you still have to just keep moving on what you think you need to do for yourself to make the best decisions you can. And to live a fulfilling, happy, it can come and go, but a solid, grounded life that respects life, respects people, and most of all, respects yourself. And to understand that you can do it. And this isn't new. I'm not saying anything new. Yeah. I mean, it's just people's experiences are different. And mine was different. Somebody else's will be different. But if somebody can read it and go, hey, that really resonates with me. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to really try to figure out what it is that I need to do that really moves me forward and the activities that I need to do to change. So, yeah.
You touched on this also earlier when we were talking about when you decided to run for office, get involved in serving the community. How did that change you, though, with seeing the things you see, getting really up close with issues, actually being able to make an impact on what is done? How did that change you, I guess, in how you saw cities work or people interact, and what could us as general citizens take away thinking like, well, maybe I should do that. Maybe I need to really get more involved in my community.
Well, I think everyone probably could get more involved and understand what's happening in their local community. A lot of people pay attention to national, state, and county politics. I say politics, but events, whereas city issues seem to not garner very much attention because, but city issues impact you the quickest
probably more
of anything. I would say people just need to follow their hearts and how they believe they want to contribute. To me, I try to lead by conviction. I want to make sure that my heart is in the right place and that I feel very strongly about what I'm advocating for, and I will work hard to achieve it. So I think it's good to be involved in it. The community is a wonderful place. Denton's a wonderful city. I mean, it's got one thing. That's the one thing I learned after serving as mayor. There's so many wonderful people in our community. When people are in trouble, people come together. Yeah, you might have some political differences. You might have this or that. But when things really happen and people need help, people stand up and they get things done. And that is, I'm so proud of that, just to see that type of mentality and that type of spirit in our city.
What have you learned about yourself, Chris, on this journey of self-discovery, from living in that station wagon there at Lake Louisville to running for mayor again? If you look in that mirror and think, wow, this is what I've really learned about who I am and why I got to where I am.
Yeah. Well, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I'm learning that the older I get, I realize how much I don't know. And also that it's not about ego. It's not about, look at me, or it's truly about, okay, I've been given this opportunity. How can I be an instrument to help other people had the opportunity. And I've learned that, I have talents and abilities that can be used to do that. And whether I do it in secret or whether I do it in the open, I just want to do it.
Any big thing if you were elected mayor that you think I got to get this accomplished for the city of Denton?
Well, this will be going. Okay, well, here we go. I don't think it's so much issue-based because I think we all know what the issues are.
Sure.
What I want to do is bring back to governance a level of civility and functionality and collaboration and cooperation to get things done and to not have division, to not have personal animus, but to everybody can work together. I've done it before. People from all walks of life, people from all walks, political ideologies, doesn't matter. You can still come together and find common ground to maximize the solutions for our community. And that's really what I'm hoping to bring back, is just a way to get things done that help people.
Was that the I guess the commonality during the times that you were mayor that you felt good about, that look, hey, we're reaching out arm to arm within the community with everyone, that there was this sense of, well, we all roll up our sleeves and work together?
Yes, there was some of that, but also there were times when there were pretty passionate disagreements,
Sure.
But yet you continued to move forward and analyze the differences and try to find solutions that would meet the most needs. Nobody got everything they wanted, but you were able to put things together that really moved forward in a way that really was productive. So yeah, it's not a utopia. It's a matter of people coming together with a spirit of, hey, it's not about me. It's about them. It's about us.
Well, and the story about you is fascinating. It's a great story of self-discovery, a journey of successes and failures and love and overcoming those obstacles. So everybody's going to enjoy, I think, reading the book when it comes out and your journey ahead. So I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Chris.
You bet.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of Built for This. Be sure to follow Built for This on your favorite listening platform and share it with a friend. Join me on the next episode when I will share entertaining stories of inspiration, encouragement, and purpose-driven experiences. What are you built for? Built for This is produced and recorded by Heart Media DFW.